Home Studio Start podcast.
Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Home Studio Start podcast.
Hello. Good to be here again.
So have you ever had that thing happen? You spend hours, maybe days, getting a mix just right in your home studio.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You think, this is it. Sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Then you take it out to the car or play it on your friend's setup, and suddenly it's just kind of wrong.
Ugh, yes. That feeling, it's maybe muddy or way too bright or just flat. It's a classic moment, isn't it? Super frustrating for anyone making music.
It absolutely is. And that brings us perfectly to what we're diving into today.
Yeah.
We're tackling a really fundamental question, one that honestly pretty much everyone getting into home recording bumps up against. It's that classic dilemma. Studio monitors versus headphones, which ones should you actually get? When do you even use which? And why does it matter so much?
Exactly. It seems simple, but it's kind of crucial. And to help us, cut through some of the confusion, we're looking at insights from Rodrigo Marquez.
Ah, right. From the Home Studio Start blog.
That's the one. His whole thing is making home recording made easy, and we're definitely trying to channel that vibe today.
Totally. So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack the unique good points of both monitors and headphones.
Right.
And guide you, the listener, on when you should reach for each tool and why to get the best possible results in your own music journey. Because really, understanding their strengths and their weaknesses too.
Yeah, that's key. It's not just about having one or the other. Knowing how to use them strategically can seriously impact the quality of your work, like massively.
For sure. Whether you're trying to balance a tricky mix or you're doing that final polish for mastering.
Or even just, working late at night, trying not to wake anyone up, the right tool, used at the right time. Honestly, it's a game changer. So let's get into it.
Okay, let's start with studio monitors. Rodrigo calls them the backbone of professional studios. You hear that term a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone maybe just starting out, what really is the big difference between these special studio monitors and, say, some really nice hi-fi speakers you might have for listening to music? What's the core idea?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The absolute fundamental difference comes down to something called a flat frequency response.
Okay, flat response.
Yeah.
What does that mean in practice?
Well, think about regular consumer speakers, like your living room stereo, or even Bluetooth speakers. They're often designed to make music sound, better to the average ear, more exciting maybe.
Right, like they boost the bass or make the highs sound sparkly.
Exactly. They often have a built-in EQ curve. They color the sound. They enhance certain frequencies to make things sound punchier or clearer or wider, which is great for just listening enjoyment.
But not for mixing.
Not for mixing or mastering, no, because that coloration hides the truth. Studio monitors, on the other hand, are engineered for the complete opposite. They strive for transparency. Their goal is to reproduce the audio signal as accurately, as truthfully as possible without adding any flavor. No artificial boosts, no cuts across the frequency spectrum.
So if something sounds bad on the monitors,
It is bad. If the bass is muddy on good monitors, it means your mix has muddy bass. If the vocal is harsh, it is harsh. There's no speaker trickery hiding the flaws.
gotcha, like taking off the rose-tinted glasses.
That's a perfect way to put it. This uncolored accuracy is just essential for mixing and mastering. It forces you to hear the true nature of a recording, confront the actual problems in your track, and then you can actually fix them properly.
That makes total sense. You need that raw truth, not just something that sounds nice in that specific speaker. Now, Rodrigo also mentions monitors creating a realistic soundstage. How does that help when you're trying to place instruments in a mix?
Right, the soundstage. This is all about the stereo image, how the sound seems spread out between the left and right speaker, how wide it feels, how deep it feels.
Like where the instruments seem to be sitting.
Exactly. With a good pair of monitors set up properly in stereo, you get this expansive and accurate sense of space. It's almost like you can visualize the band performing right there in front of you.
Oh, cool.
You can clearly hear, okay, that guitar is panned just a little bit left, or is that snare drum really dead center? It helps you make decisions about panning and depth that feel natural.
And I guess that helps make the mix work elsewhere.
That's the goal. This wider perspective helps you create a mix that translates well, which is just a fancy way of saying it'll sound good, or at least balanced, pretty much wherever people listen to it.
Like in cars or on earbuds or...
Yeah, on decent home systems, crappy phone speakers, whatever. You're aiming for consistency across different playback environments, not just making it sound good in your specific room on your specific monitors.
That translation thing is huge. Okay, so monitors sound amazing, accurate, great soundstage, but, and this is a really big but that Rodrigo stresses.
Oh, here it comes.
Yeah, they absolutely need a well-treated room. Why is the room so important? And what does acoustic treatment really mean beyond just like sticking some foam on the walls?
Yes. The room. This is honestly where a lot of home setups fall down, even with great monitors. You could have the most incredibly accurate, expensive monitors. But if your room itself is an acoustic mess, bare walls, square dimensions, lots of hard surfaces, the sound bouncing around can totally screw up what you're hearing.
So, like echoes.
Echoes, yeah, but also more complex stuff. Reflections off the walls, the ceiling, the floor, they arrive at your ears slightly later than the direct sound from the monitor, smearing the detail. And then there are standing waves, especially with bass frequencies.
Standing waves?
Yeah, where bass notes of certain frequencies get trapped bouncing between parallel walls, and they either get massively amplified or canceled out, depending on where you sit. So you might think you have way too much bass, or not enough, just because of the room's issues.
Wow. Okay, so the room itself is coloring the sound.
Yeah.
Even if the monitors aren't.
Precisely. It totally defeats the purpose of having those accurate flat response monitors in the first place. You're making mixed decisions based on the room's problems, not your actual music.
Yikes. So acoustic treatment is the fix.
It's the essential fix, yes.
Yeah.
And it's more than just random foam. We're talking about strategically placed materials. Things like bass traps, usually thick panels placed in corners, designed specifically to absorb low-frequency energy and stop those standing waves from building up.
Oh, okay, traps for the bass.
And then things like diffusers on walls or ceilings. These don't just absorb sound, they scatter the reflections in different directions.
Scatter them. Why?
It breaks up those strong, direct echoes and makes the room sound larger and more natural, less boxy. The overall goal of treatment is to minimize the room's negative impact, creating a more neutral, reliable listening spot where you mostly hear the direct sound from your monitors nice and clear.
So the monitors can actually do their job properly.
Exactly. It's vital to let your monitors perform optimally.
Right. So it's clear, monitors aren't just plug and play. The environment is just as critical as the gear itself.
Absolutely.
But when you get it right, good monitors in a treated room, it sounds like they're pretty much indispensable for anyone serious about production. Unmatched accuracy, that crucial soundstage, they really are the gold standard for critical listening and mixing tasks.
Couldn't agree more. They're foundational.
Okay, now let's flip the coin. Let's talk headphones. Rodrigo calls them the portable solution, which they obviously are. They feel like a really valuable partner to monitors, right? Almost like a magnifying glass to the monitor's wide view.
That's a really good way to think about it, actually, a magnifying glass. Yeah. Headphones bring a totally different set of strengths. Their biggest wins are definitely unparalleled portability.
For sure.
And excellent noise isolation. Portability is obvious. You're not tied to your studio desk. You can work while traveling in a cafe, maybe just move to the living room couch. That kind of flexibility is huge for getting stuff done.
Yeah, no kidding. And the noise isolation part, how does that help specifically?
Well, two main ways. First, it blocks out external distractions. So if your environment is a bit noisy or you just really need to focus intently on some tiny detail in the mix, headphones let you do that. You're sealed off in your own world.
Locked in.
And second, they keep your sound in. This is massive for late night work, or if you live with other people or in an apartment with thin walls, you can crank up your session without disturbing anyone.
Oh man, the late night thing is so key for so many home producers, myself included.
Right. It's often the only time you can work. So headphones enable that productivity without causing domestic disputes. It's a huge practical benefit.
We get that. But okay, headphones aren't perfect either. Rodrigo does point out some limitations. He mentions ear fatigue and a more limited soundstage. Can you unpack those a bit? What do they actually mean for the producer?
Yeah, those are the main drawbacks, definitely. Ear fatigue happens because headphones are firing sound directly into your ear canals, often at fairly close range and potentially higher perceived volumes. Over time, especially during long sessions, your ears just get tired. Things might start to sound dull or maybe harsh. Your perception of frequency balance and dynamics gets skewed. You can't really trust your judgment after a while. You need breaks.
I think we've all felt that fuzzy-headed feeling after too long with headphones on.
Exactly. And the limited sound stage, that's the other big difference compared to monitors.
Mm.
With monitors in a room, you get that sense of width and depth, the sound existing in the space around you.
Mm-hmm.
Headphones tend to create a more internalized sound stage. It's often described as being inside your head. While stereo panning is clear left to right, judging the depth of the mix or the precise placement of instruments in that virtual space can be trickier. It doesn't always translate perfectly to how it'll sound on speakers.
Okay, so maybe not the best for judging the overall spatial feel of the mix compared to monitors, but you also said earlier they could be a game changer. So even with those downsides, where do headphones really excel? What are their superpowers?
Okay, yeah. Despite those limitations, headphones are incredibly powerful for specific tasks. They absolutely shine when it comes to detailed editing.
Like surgical stuff.
Exactly. Think about finding and removing tiny clicks or pops in a vocal track, or making super precise adjustments to fades, or fixing subtle timing errors in a drum performance.
Stuff you might miss otherwise.
Stuff you might easily miss on monitors, especially if your room isn't perfect or if there's other noise around. Headphones, with their isolation and close proximity, let you zoom right in and catch those subtle nuances. They put you right inside the audio.
Magnifying glass again.
Precisely. For that kind of critical listening, finding flaws, doing really intricate cleanup work, a good pair of studio headphones is just invaluable. They let you focus with incredible precision, free from distractions.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So monitors for the big picture, the overall balance in space, and headphones for the microsecond detail, the cleanup, and the flexibility. It really paints them as complementary tools, not rivals, each crucial in its own way.
Could have said it better myself.
Okay, so this is where we get practical. Let's strategize. Rodrigo Marquez lays out some pretty clear use cases. Based on his insights, when should you absolutely be reaching for your studio monitors? What are those tasks where they are the non-negotiable choice?
Right. Monitors are king when accuracy and that true representation are paramount. So number one, mixing. This is the big one.
Makes sense.
When you're balancing levels, panning instruments, applying EQ and compression across the whole track, you absolutely need that uncolored, flat response monitors provide. You're trying to achieve a true balance, making decisions that will hopefully translate well everywhere else. Relying only on headphones for final mix decisions is generally risky.
Because of that in-your-head soundstage and potential coloration.
Exactly. Monitors give you that real-world perspective. Then, task number two. Mastering.
The final polish.
Yep. The absolute final stage. This requires the utmost accuracy. You're making very subtle, critical adjustments to loudness, EQ, and dynamics that affect the entire character and commercial viability of the track. You need to hear exactly what's going on, without any hype. Monitors are crucial here.
Okay, mixing and mastering. What else?
Critical listening. This is maybe less of a specific task and more of an ongoing practice, but really analyzing reference tracks or listening closely to your own work to identify subtle issues. Things like checking reverb tails, judging panning decisions accurately, ensuring good instrument separation. Monitors excel at revealing these finer details in context.
Gotcha. And one more.
Sound design. When you're crafting sounds from scratch, maybe designing a synth patch or layering sound effects, you need to hear those sounds in their purest form. Monitors let you judge the texture, frequency content, and dynamic behavior accurately, ensuring the sounds you create will work well within a larger mix.
Makes sense. You need to know what the sound actually sounds like.
Right. And just to hammer it home one more time, all of this assumes you're using them in that well-treated room. Without the acoustic treatment, the monitors can't deliver on their promise of accuracy for these critical tasks. It's a package deal.
Absolutely crucial point. Okay, that's a clear case for monitors, the big picture, the critical balance, the final checks. But here's where it gets really interesting for everyday workflow. What about headphones? When are they the go-to tool? When do you absolutely reach for them?
Okay, headphones step up when there's specific advantages that detail, isolation, and portability are exactly what you need. So, first up, detailed editing. We touched on this.
The surgical stuff.
Yeah, removing tiny clicks, pops, breaths you don't want, nudging audio clips by milliseconds for perfect timing, adjusting tricky fades, anything that requires focusing on intricate details. Headphones often make this easier than monitors, letting you zero in without room interference.
Okay, that's a big one. What else?
Late night sessions. We mentioned this too, but it's worth repeating. Being able to work effectively without disturbing others is, for many people, the only way they can get production time in. Headphones make that possible. Simple as that.
A lifesaver, truly.
Totally. Then portable production. Obvious, but essential. If you travel or like to work in different locations, coffee shops, libraries, trains, headphones are your studio. They let you continue working on your projects no matter where you are. Huge for workflow continuity.
Yeah, keeps the momentum going.
Definitely. Also, noise isolation in specific scenarios. Think about tracking vocals or an acoustic guitar with a microphone in the same room. You need headphones to hear the backing track without it bleeding into the mic. Or if you have to work in a noisy environment, they help you block it out and focus.
Right, like for location recording or something.
Exactly. And finally, A/B testing or cross-referencing. This is super important. After you've mixed on your monitors, listening on headphones gives you a different perspective.
How so?
It can reveal things you missed. Maybe the reverb is too loud on headphones, or a certain frequency pokes out oddly. It helps you catch potential issues and make sure your mix works in different listening contexts. It's a crucial check for achieving that balanced translation we talked about.
So using them to check the monitor mix.
Precisely. It's part of getting a well-rounded perspective. But, again, the caveats apply. Watch out for that ear fatigue during long sessions.
Take breaks.
Yes. And make sure you're using good quality, reasonably flat response models for any critical listening or mixing checks you do on headphones, not just any old consumer pair.
Good point. Needs to be a tool, not just a convenience. This is super helpful. It really clarifies that they aren't fighting each other, they're partners. So pulling it all together, what does this mean for someone setting up their home studio? It sounds like the answer isn't really monitors or headphones, is it?
Not at all. That's exactly Rodrigo Marquez's main takeaway. It's not about picking a winner. The real goal is finding a balance. It's about understanding how each tool uniquely fits into your music production workflow. Right.
And he emphasizes that, really, many producers find that using both studio monitors and headphones provides the best results. They complement each other perfectly. They're teammates.
So you use the monitors for that big, accurate soundstage and overall mix perspective, getting the core balance right, making sure it translates. And then you use the headphones for the detailed work, the editing, the portability, the late nights, and as that crucial second reference point.
You've got it. That's the ideal scenario. Leverage the strengths of each. Monitors for the foundation, headphones for the fine-tuning and flexibility.
Yeah.
So our advice, echoing Rodrigo, is definitely to experiment with both. See how they work for you in your space with your music. Don't just stick to one. Learning how to effectively integrate both monitors and good headphones into your process, that can seriously elevate the quality of your work.
It really sounds like embracing both is the key to unlocking that next level of pro sound at home. Fantastic insights.
Glad to help break it down. So, here's something to think about. Now that you understand the distinct roles, the strengths, the weaknesses of both studio monitors and headphones, how will you start using them together in your production process? How can you leverage both to gain new levels of clarity, detail, and flexibility in your music? Definitely something to chew on. Thank you so much for joining us today for this deep dive into a truly essential part of the home studio puzzle.
My pleasure.
We really hope this gives you more confidence and a clearer direction as you build your setup and make your music. Keep exploring, keep creating, and we will catch you next time for another deep dive right here on the Home Studio Start podcast.